I know that a lot of leftists have told you otherwise, a lot of black activists have told you otherwise, but black people have systematic power. Marginalized groups of people have systematic power. Systemic power, often called systematic power, is the influence and control built into the structures, laws, and unwritten rules of society. It privileges some groups over others through institutions like governments, economies, and cultural norms, rather than depending on direct force or individual choices. And that is why black people coming together and being a force together is something that affords systematic power. Numbers are systematic power. That is why we as black people preach unity, because we understand that if we are all working together under the same cause, we would be effective. Yes, individual choices mean nothing when you are being systematically oppressed. But if 3 people decide something, if 5 people decide something, if 10 people, 30 people, again, that is why we advocate. That is why we try to change people's minds. That is why we talk about social issues. That is why we target individuals, because we want to come together with them, we want to unite with them. And the more of us feel this way, the more of us stand against the systems, the more effective we will be. But if I go around trying to collect black people to stand up against colorism, texturism, and featureism, and none of you are gettable, none of you care, all of you just care that, oh no, the system says, yes, the system says, but now we have to fight against the system. The system says our hair is useless, okay, but now we have to fight against the system. So let's come together. Let's come together. Let's all fight to make sure that more of us wear our hair out. Yeah. Let's all fight to make sure that our schools, the schools that are being run by our mothers and our fathers, the schools that have people from our communities as principals, the schools that have people from our communities as teachers, those same community members who are telling our children, our sisters, our nieces that their hair is not good enough for school. We were taught all of those things within the same household. The fact that our hair is only manageable when it is relaxed, that it's only pretty when it is not coily, when it is not kinky, that is something that we were all taught within our homes, a majority of us anyway. And that is why this is a system they're taught at home. They grow up, they get older, they get into these positions, and then the cycle continues. Keeping the cycle going is how we misuse our systematic power. Here's what they do not understand about systematic power. They assume that you have to have the most of it, that your systematic power has to affect the person who has the most power in order for it to truly exist. But no, black people have systematic power. We have enough systematic power to ensure safety and security of the people within our community, but we just do not use it to do so. Think about how whenever leftists advocate against a certain thing within marginalized groups, right? Let's take now this conversation that is being had about biphobia and a lot of straight women not wanting to engage in romantic and sexual relationships with bisexual men, right? Who's been confronted? Straight women. Straight women are being told that despite the fact that they are marginalized, they still have more systematic power compared to their queer counterparts. They still are way more privileged by way of being straight. Yes, not much so compared to gay men. The advantages that come with being straight, they are using the social currency that comes with that to cause harm, right? Their words, the way they interact with others, the things that they choose to do, the things that they choose to say concerning queer men. In this regard, specifically bi men, right? We are being told that what they do, what they say, or what they do not, that it could impact these individuals negatively. It could impact them socially. It could impact them mentally, emotionally. And that is why they should stop doing this, right? They should stop widening this gap between us as a people within our community, right? That is what we're being told, right? And I'm learning, I'm absorbing, I'm taking all of that in. So when I say black people not believing that they have systematic power, that when I say that is why a lot of black people do not understand that colorism, texturism, and featureism is something that we are upholding ourselves, that ophophobia is something that we have a lot of power to push back against, aggressively so, that we can be so effective in ensuring that our community that is being broken down because of these things, that we have the power to actually ensure that our community has a fighting chance. All of you, when I say that, it sounds like madness, but it's not madness.
Straight people are homophobic, white people are racist, cisgender people are transphobic, able-bodied people are ableist, rich people hate poor people, and it goes on and on and on. Every person has a bias. Every person is a bigot to some extent. This moral superiority game that you guys play on social media reminds me regularly that you guys do not care about dismantling systems of oppression. You just don't personally want to be oppressed. It's like you want other people to embody accountability that you can't embody, because when it's your turn to reflect on your biases, you go, no, not me, I'm an oppressed class. Unless you are a straight, white, cisgendered, able-bodied man, your bias is going to exist with another demographic who is also an oppressed class of some sort. I understand as a cisgendered white person, I'm going to struggle the most with racism and transphobia. I know I struggle with ableism too, because I almost refer to myself as an able-bodied person in this video, even though I'm categorically not an able-bodied person. Everyone receives social conditioning, everyone receives indoctrination, but the intersection of your demographics dictate what type of social conditioning you will be subjected to. You have free will. You can use it however you want. You get to decide if you care about being a safe person for other people, but don't come on the internet and berate other people for being unable or unwilling to work through their biases if you are unable and unwilling to work through your biases.
Systematic power does not have to be a lot in order for it to still be power and for it to still be systematic. Let me explain systematic power, right? If I, Youngs, I decide to gather my Xhosa tribe, right? If I decide to go to the Xhosa nation and now and say, Xhosa people, let us stand up against... No, actually, let me not even go there. Let me explain systematic power. And I'm going to use Jacinta, a very colorist, in my opinion, South African women's fight to ensure that African foreigners are thrown out of the country, right? And the reason why I'm going to call her colorist is because her apology that she gave, it was not truly, she did not direct it towards darker people. She did not apologize for the harm. She was just like, I said some things I did not mean. Like, and we all have, right? Let me not say we all have. I hate when people see that, right? As dummies, as stupid people who fell down pipelines, we have, right? And I feel like when we do give these apologies, they should not be as void and as empty and as soulless as the one that she gave, right? But that aside, Black people who believe that we are suffering economically because of Black foreigners, those Black people were able to use systematic power. They were able to come together, all of these marginalized groups, they have little to no resources, right, or anything else, but they were able to use systematic power. They were able to come together as a people, use force, physical force to take people from their homes, throw them out of their homes. They were able to instill fear in others. They were able to get whatever reaction they wanted from others. That is systematic power. It is systematic power that affected this country economically. It is systematic power that affected our standing globally as a country, right? That is what they use their systematic power to do. So when I say most of the reasons why Afrophobia thrives so much in our community is because we use our systematic power to enforce it instead of using our systematic power to stand up against it. Think about how, for example, and by the way, I'm anti the one drop rule. If you're new here, I'm anti the one drop rule, right? But think about how a lot of Black people who enforce the one-drop rule, think about how they do not even understand that they are the ones enforcing it, even though they are the ones who ensure that there are consequences socially and economically for whoever does not go by it. Take Tyler, for example. People were threatening to not stream her music. People were threatening to not go to a concert. People were threatening to use platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and X and whatever. What did I say? Twitter and then X. Any platform they can, right? To spread the word that she's anti-Black, that she's hateful.
If I were Tyler, I would have been told y'all to go to hell. Because expecting someone from the other side of the world to assimilate to American racial frameworks, it's xenophobic. It screams American exceptionalism and it reeks of severe main character syndrome. The world does not revolve around the United States, its racial categories, its one-drop rule, and it's high time we stopped acting like it did. Tyla is colored. That is what her ethnicity is in her country. I understand that the word colored carries a different historical meaning here in the United States, but words change meaning when you cross borders. In South Africa, colored refers to a distinct group with its own history, its own culture, its own language even, Afrikaans. I actually had the privilege of living in South Africa as a youngin', where I lived among colored communities. I learned Afrikaans and really gained a deep understanding and respect of their culture and identity. Then I moved to the United States, learned American history, as well as the historical meaning of the word colored here in America. But my prior understanding of what the word meant in South Africa did not impede me from understanding what it means here in the States. You're not understanding something very simple. Words, identities, histories don't magically stay the same when you cross a border. That's the part that I think a lot of Americans are having trouble with, because I've seen the same phenomenon manifest whenever they're presented with a Black Hispanic person, because they think that those two identities are mutually exclusive. But that's a conversation for another day.
People were literally threatening to defame her, basically. They were literally fighting to ensure that this woman comes out at some point and says, I'm Black. And she came out and genuinely said, I'm Black. Like, they literally used systematic power, digital systematic power that they have as a group to beat her into submission. And it worked. And now all of those mixed kids who needed authentic representation, all of those mixed kids who identify as mixed or who identify with whatever ethnic group mixed people are put in their country, in the area they're in, whatever else, right? They literally took that from those children. They literally took that from those people. It was a clean sweep. They literally won that victory. Now imagine if they had actually used this to actually do anything else. Imagine if they had used this force to actually fight Afrophobia. But Tyla came out and said, I'm Black, and people are literally like, oh, well, what you might call this? See, she was finally being honest, but no, she's not being honest. You literally bullied her. You literally ostracized her, and she's giving you what you want. She said what you wanted her to say.
I know that being colored is like my culture, it exists in my context, but I'm also Black, like being colored is something that happened through a lot of pain. Our South African history is very painful. We were separated from each other and given these names, and colored became our culture. So it's still something that we're very prideful about. I think it was a very important thing for me to go through and learn, and for the conversations to just open up.
Black people have systematic power. Let's talk about how we use the systematic power to enforce Afrophobia. We do it in our homes, in the way we are raised, the way our parents regurgitate hurtful things that were said about black presenting people during apartheid. And I will not let South Africans do this. All of you know that they are white presenting people, they are color presenting people. All of you are aware that there's stereotypical phenotypes for every group, but you hate it when that is said about black people. I hate all of you doing this whole black people come in all shades and not wanting to be honest about there being black people with admixture, not wanting to separate mixed individuals from black people, and not wanting there to be a very, very honest conversation about multi-generationally mixed black people. You take black American leftist conversations and you try to apply them to South African politics, and it doesn't work, and you demonize any South African who does not act like they understand that they understand why you are acting like what happens in America and what happens here is the same. All of you are literally going on platforms now and saying things like, black people say I'm not black enough. Black people say I'm not black enough because I look colored. Black people say that I look colored. What? They've always been black people who actually prefer to be perceived as colored. The same way they've always been black people who may take offense to that. But this idea that there is also not a slew of black people who feel like black people who don't say that they look colored in the way that they feel they do are just like black people who literally tell black people who say they look colored that they're jealous, and tell black people who say that they don't look colored are jealous. All of you are claiming that black people admitting that some of us have admixture is some sign of hatred, when no, we were never, literally, we are not American. We weren't bound by the one drop rule. We are not obligated to act like we did. There aren't people whose families who have colored people marrying into their families, people who have colored ancestry and identify solely as black. I am under no obligation to act like that does not happen. If that offends you as a black South African, please explain why, but you're not going to make me bow to American imperialism. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to bow to American imperialism and act like me adapting some politic that you heard, some opinion that you heard in a American YouTuber's music video. In an American YouTuber's video essay, like I should take that and apply that to South Africans, how we were racialized, how we were brought up and everything else. No, I will not do that. But that aside, I wish that we could use our collective power as black people, especially as black women, to actually celebrate our beauty boldly and to put it center stage. We have systematic power. We are why we are not respected in beauty spaces. And when I say that again, a lot of you are going to say the history, the politics, I do not care. We have enough systematic power to ensure that things like our hair, things like darker skin, things like whiter features are seen as beauty symbols. We talk about how black people have so much control over what is out there in the media, in entertainment, about how we are the driving force behind it. But we do not want to admit that part of why colorism is so prevalent in our communities is because we market it as something that is acceptable to say and do. Us being outwardly self-hating, black people literally making self-hatred and internalized hatred normal. Like, it's something that is such a huge part of our identity that we do not even understand that what we are doing is wrong. We act like upholding the idea that black people need otherness to be seen as better, as beautiful, or anything else is okay, when no, it is not. It is an expression of our own self-hatred, and we need to stop.
I'm going to say the part that people don't want to say. There's an underlying need among people who've been deemed socially undesirable to have those considered beautiful to publicly identify as part of their community. Nobody bats an eye when Lupita Nyong'o doesn't identify as Black American, because while she's very gorgeous, her aesthetic isn't widely desired within the Black American community. Tyler, on the other hand, embodies an aesthetic that many Black Americans culturally and personally covet.
We have systematic power, and we need to use it to our advantage instead of using it to constantly beat ourselves down. We need to use our collective systematic power to build up our community, but we don't do that because we don't even acknowledge we have it. We cannot understand how much we enforce hatred in our communities if we keep blaming everyone but ourselves. Those people in that village right now, the ones who are using culture to excuse touching children or anything else, whether you like it or not, if the people in that village would mobilize, if they would stand together and stand against the perpetrator, it would work. Why? Because within that space, that is a system. The way they operate, how everything moves in that village, it is a system. Please understand what a system is. And if they decided to act against predators, it would work. It's why when we call them out not as powerless people, but as people who have the power to stop something. Come on, when we make videos about how our African parents do this and do that, we talk about how they use their systematic power as parents to beat us down as children. We understand black people having systematic power. All of you will literally go online and claim black women are why DL men exist, and black women are why homophobia is prevalent in the black community, despite them being marginalized. You are acting like black women have enough systematic power to literally create and uphold homophobia on their own. You are all on platforms asserting this within leftist spaces. Within leftist spaces, you are claiming that black women who have little to no systematic power in the black community, that they are actually the root of homophobia in the community. But when I tell all of you, we as black people collectively have systematic power, you don't want to get it. Why? Because acknowledging that you have the power to change your circumstances, it is something that a lot of people do not want to do, because in feeling powerless, in seeing ourselves as powerless people, it sort of gives us enough of an excuse to not actually do what we need to do, which is stand up to each other. Stop spreading hatred towards each other, towards each other. We need to be more responsible. Us not acknowledging we have systematic power is exactly why when I say in order to fight back against texturism, we are going to need a lot more black women in media wearing their afros. And all of you say, oh please, let's concentrate on making sure that people do not talk down on us when we wear our afros. Yes, but if we use our systematic power to wear them anyway and to actually make sure that younger children who see us being tarnished because of it, that they hear how we respond, how we still hold our heads up high despite it, that would help. All of you understand this. All of you understand this when it comes to anything else, but you do not want to understand it when it comes to our own bodies as black people. If this was a conversation about fat phobia and it was about women who are fat wanting to be represented and then not feeling represented because the woman who was used was just slightly chubby, come on. If you are a leftist, you would understand that. In fact, you would champion them. But when I tell all of you that I as a black woman do not feel represented by black women who wear weaves, because that is not my image. I was not born with Asian hair. She's not my representation. That is insulting and I'm stripping her of her blackness and how dare you do this. No representation is personal. But that representation, it can help us show a lot of young girls that their beauty has a space. It will show a lot of young girls that their beauty is enough for us. Because our own beauty is enough for us. We act like black kids do not need examples, that we do not need to be positive examples towards them, that has no effect. Because again, we do not want to acknowledge we have systematic power until we want to call each other the worst of the worst.
So you know how black women are underrepresented? I'm at the point now where unless she's wearing her natural hair, I do not feel represented by her. You're not representing me. You're not representing our beauty. You're not emulating your own beauty. So it's like it's not really good enough. It's not what I want. I don't want to see black women endlessly assimilate and then act like they're representing me in media. No, you aren't. I'm getting so tired of it. I keep thinking that black women are going to get a better hold of their self-identity, and then we keep insisting for the ongoing assimilation of our features. I'm just tired of all the excuses to continue to allow the future generations of black women to feel like they have to change themselves. Oh, I want to do whatever I want to do, but you were told to want that.
Black people will blame each other for teaching kids to be into alcohol. Black people will call out rappers and say that you are what's pushing drugs and everything else into our community. So you acknowledge that rappers have power to push drugs into a community. You acknowledge that black artists have the power to use their music for change, because you are telling them that them talking about drugs, about sex or anything else, that them zooming in on those topics more, that it literally shifts culture, that it teaches these kids that this is okay and that this is not. All of you will call it amapiano and say that it's groove culture, that it has R-word undertones, right? That it has R-word-ist undertones, right? And you will claim that it is literally enforcing things, that it is causing a lot of these young boys who are listening to this music to further objectify women. It is cementing the idea that women are nothing more than bodies for their enjoyment, that they are nothing more than tools for their enjoyment. All of you will talk about how black people only being portrayed one way, not betrayed, that black people only being betrayed, that black people only being portrayed one way in the media. It causes a lot of black people, especially young black kids, to see themselves through one view, through one light. Then when I say when we have our own media, then let's not be colorist, let's not be texturist, because that teaches young kids that it is okay to be texturist, that their features, that their bodies are not good enough, that they do not represent beauty in the way that other children do. We use our own media to uplift others above our own selves. We do it all the time. Think about how we as black people will still refer to somebody who's successful as umlungu. We have enough power within us to stop attaching success and all of these other things to white people, but we refuse to use it to do that. We still make jokes. We still use our own language, our own words to teach ourselves and the next generation that success, that working hard and reaping the rewards of your own hard work, that is a white people thing. We ensure that even if they see a row of black people who have succeeded, we ensure through language that they still associate it with white people. We do that. And we call each other out on that, and I'm glad that it's happening more and more. When we call those people out, we tell them how much our community would change if they stop doing that, meaning they have the power to actually change our community. We may not have the systematic power to do away with everything all at once, but using our systematic power to get rid of these things would give us a step ahead, and we do not want to be honest about that. The reason why black hair is not accepted is because we as black women do not accept our hair. Black men do not accept their hair. We do not accept our features. We do not accept stereotypical black features, and when it is time to do so, we move the line, and we need to stop doing that. Not celebrating our own beauty loudly and proudly is why it is not celebrated. We use our systematic power to express our self-hatred. We still compliment each other. We refuse to accept that we are beautiful people. We refuse to accept that stereotypical black features are beautiful features. We do. And don't come here and give me that, but what does it have to do with colorism? We're all black at the end of the day. Not a community of people who still diss darker people by saying, you're not getting that from me. Don't come here, we're all black at the end of the day. We're all black at the end of the day. Not when you still use the term black to insult darker people. All of the lighter people want their blackness respected here. Start by telling me why you're fine with darker people being insulted, why the term black is used to insult darker people. Tell me why that does not take away your blackness, and that is not something that is wrong, that asserts that you're not black enough. Why do all of you wait for colorism to be the topic of conversation before you remember all of these things people apparently say to take away your blackness? We have systematic power, and we should use it to assert that black people do not need otherness, that the image, the stereotypical, and I'm going to say this again, because a lot of black people will say this. You will all say that race was determined by white people. What white people think black is what black is. You will also make the false claim that white people see us all the same, which is a crazy thing for you to assert. To say that white people just cannot tell the difference between shades. Can they also not tell who's tall and who's short? Are they that dumb? The people like, oh, white people cannot tell who's darker, who's lighter. We're all just black to them. It's not okay. White people can see who's lighter and who's not. And we as black people have also started a culture where we uphold people who are lighter, and we explain why we do. And we explain that it is because we feel they have proximity to otherness. We put that in our music. White people engage with our media. Even if you wanted to make it seem like they were this inherently super innocent people who aren't colorist themselves, like there aren't people who fight over who's blonde and who's brunette themselves, like there isn't colorism in their own community, like they do not call Italians slurs for being slightly darker than them. All of you want to sit here and tell me that white people practice colorism with each other, but they just won't with black people, because if you're black, you're just black. Stop with the fucking rubbish. White people do not see us all the same. Asian people do not see us all the same. Mixed people do not see us all the same. No, they can tell the difference between people who are light and who are dark. And yes, they associate lighter skin with a proximity towards themselves. I do not know why that is very hard for people to accept, but yes. A lot of black people in their music, in our poems, in our books, we have literally asserted this ourselves. From the lightest one to the darkest one. Again, we use the term black to refer to darker people in a lot of our texts. And all of you act like that isn't the case for some reason. Because again, when you want to confront these things, you want to do it from an American context and not from an African context. Specifically a South African context, which is why it never makes sense. That is why if we use our systematic power to push back aggressively against Afrophobia, we are going to be effective. We are going to be effective in progressing as a group. Yes, to lighter people as well, there'll be more successful lighter people. The more darker people succeed, the more likely we are to succeed as well, which is why I'm saying we should use our systematic power to fight against Afrophobia. You helping uphold it just means you're upholding the idea that colored people, white people, Asian people are better than you as well. Just because you want to hold on to whatever privilege comes with being a lighter skinned black person. No, you need to stop doing that. We need to use our collective systematic power to push back. We have the lighter people who want to talk about how colorism affects them, that how them not being perceived as any other racial group, how it hurts them. Why do you not want to use that? Why don't you want to actually use this whole I'm also involved in colorism thing for that? There are lighter girls who've been bullied and abused by other lighter girls, who've experienced jealousy from other lighter girls. There are lighter girls who have witnessed other lighter girls being violent and bitter towards darker girls. But whenever this conversation about reverse colorism comes around, all lighter girls remember is darker girls being jealous and bitter and beating everyone. Why? Because you want to use your systematic power as lighter women to assert that darker women are inherently aggressive and violent. You want to use your systematic power to uphold the hateful rhetoric people spread against them because you still want to be seen as better. Because the idea that lighter skin is not inherently better, that it is actually hatred, it is a systemized hatred that asserts that hurts a lot of your feelings. And I need that to stop. I need the reverse colorism claims. I need these claims that reverse colorism exists and it affects you and all the dark-skinned girls were bitter and jealous of you to stop. I'm going to expand on this in another video. I'll also be doing a more extensive video on how colorism is marketed to us, by us, in our community, about how we keep it alive. But yeah, for this video, I think I've said all I need to say.